Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It is Marvin speaking. I just want to go back into a video by Joseph Morris, and it was something he said which I think is really, really important in this case, and it's Tom makes a big slip up. Let's get straight into this.
The question right now among sleuths was Tom in Tenerife? And when asked about that, this is where sleuths say Tom slipped up. So thank you to Speedy Reedy for sending this in. Let's watch this together.
I've never been there in my life. I was in my glove as well when all this happened.
I don't even know what's happening.
So in case you didn't catch that, Tom in this clip says he was in Magaluf while Jay was in Tenerife. Magaluf is in Majorca, Spain. But on June 7th day, Jay went missing. Tom posted this cryptic picture reading, quote, "the boys," end quote, with a blue heart, which is symbolic of Jay.
This was weird. Look at the date and time. This was posted 17th of June at 6:04 a.m. Why would you do that? It's odd. With like a sort of a Christmassy background. It just doesn't make sense. Why would you do that at that time with a blue heart as well? It's really, really strange. It's like he had to prove where he was. And like I said, we know that it's not out of this world for him to get from Magaluf to Tenerife. It can be done. But like I said, you know, these days, if you've got the right connections, and you don't want to be seen in anywhere, though people do think that he was actually in Tenerife. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was.
Many feel that this was actually an alibi photo to prove that they, being Tom right here, and a person named Stephen Lowe right here, who is his uncle, had nothing to do with Jay's disappearance, because why would they post this photo the same day Jay went missing? Sleuths have discovered that Mr. Lowe was allegedly at the Energy Rave the night Jay disappeared, right at the bottom here. And they also believe that they can see Rocky and Ayub in the rave footage as well. So sleuths point to this footage at the Energy Rave of a man who looks very similar to Stephen Lowe as proof. And I heard some other people saying it was Chris Tenerife as well, but what do you guys think? Do you guys see sort of like a resemblance between either of them? But what I found really strange about this...
Interesting. Because like I said, wasn't it Chris Tenerife that said that he saw Jay go off in a car? But like I said, didn't show us proof on that. That's very, very interesting. Some of this early stuff you could really, really forget. And I thought this was a brilliant video.
Alibi photo was that it had Christmas decorations in the background, and they all appear to be wearing winter gear, except for Steven for some reason, on June 17th. So someone actually identified the background as being in Manchester. So why would Tom post this old Christmas photo on June 17th to prove that they were all together when Tom was actually in Majorca, Spain? It seems kind of random to me, and the alibi explanation doesn't really seem that far-fetched. I mean, maybe he was just hoping no one would look into this photo that deeply and realize that it was posted at a different time. But a user sent this to me via email. So this sleuth believes that they've identified the man in Ayub's now deleted Instagram as being one of Tom's friends. So this is unconfirmed, but the person on the right here next to Tom does bear a striking resemblance to one of Tom's public photos to the man in Ayub's now deleted Instagram. And yeah, to me, it looks like potentially his hair is a bit lighter and he may be, you know, on something in the bottom photo, but the face shape is just so on point.
I remember this video and the guy was really, really off it. And Ayub was like laughing, like he didn't have any concern in the world for this guy's, you know, for this kid's health, to be honest with you. It was a really, really weird video.
What do you guys think? You have to kind of ask yourself, like, why is Ayub, who's 31 years old, always seen with these younger men? I mean, it kind of gives some credence to this theory that he is allegedly a kingpin in Tenerife and uses, younger men to do the dirty work for him, and younger women, such as allegedly Lucy. And in particular, this photo of Ayub that's from his deleted Instagram really still haunts me to this day. It looks like, they're doing the see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil signs in this cryptic Instagram post in the area Jay disappeared, with the caption reading +1, which in drill rap means that they murked somebody. And there is some new.
Very, very strange indeed. That was by obviously someone who was following the case a long time, Joseph Morris. And let me say, some really, really interesting stuff. But like I said, it was strange why Tom would do that. Was it guilt? Was it because, like I said, didn't really have to do anything if it didn't involve him. But that was strange at that time in the morning as well. And it seemed like to me that picture that he was in with the Christmas background, family and friends, were manipulated as well. Because, like I said, we know, like I said, some of the family members are hardcore criminals as well. And I think it was Duncan back in the day who went through some of the family sort of relations, and he could be a relative of Lee T as well, which is interesting. But like I said, when you look back and you see these serious red flags and him coming out and saying what he's doing, but like I said, he's got nothing to worry about at the end of the day, because like I said, I don't think, like I said, he physically did something. But like I said, I'm sure Dan knows. He knows what happened to Jay and why. I can tell you that much. Welcome back to part 2, people. This is an article by the Daily Mail, the back end of last year, and it says, he told me he was on Veronica's strip in Playa de las Americas. This is Ayub speaking, and said that Jay wanted to carry on partying and that he hadn't had anywhere to stay. So Kazim invited him back to the rental. This is what the Daily Mail has said. Invited him back to the rental. That's not what we heard at first. He was basically saying Jay had nowhere to go. So why didn't he say, look, Jay, I'll drop you back at your apartment, or give you some money to get a taxi? Or the normal thing is to drop him off if he was driving. It didn't make sense. Considering, according to Ayub's narrative, that they were all together eating. So why didn't Jay go off with the friends his own age? That didn't make sense. In the car, they played music all the way, but Rocky was asleep in the car. So would you really be blasting music out when your mate's asleep in the car? I guess you would. I guess you wouldn't. Wants to get a can of fizzy drink, and there was 3 of them in the car. Jay in the back, and Kazim's friend in the front. I honestly believe that there were more than, I think there were 5 people in that car, and I do think there was 3 in another. Ali done that investigation where they stopped off and talked to a assistant who works in the complex where they stopped off. And she turned around. The manager wouldn't talk, but she did get back in contact with Ali. And she turned around and said that there were 7 of them altogether. Once at the property, his friend opened the door and went to the left and went straight to sleep. So there was obviously a room to sleep to the left. So we didn't say he walked up. Jay walked in, and Kazim walked in behind him, went upstairs and got him a red blanket. And obviously that was a blanket. We seem to think that was from one of Lucy's the places she actually stays. Because because obviously we have heard that Ophelia said that blanket that was there is nothing to do with the Airbnb, and she didn't know where it came from. Mr. Williams Thomas Adekasim said, "Yo, bro, the sofa for you," and he gave him a towel if he needed a shower. There's just too much information. Too much information here, to be honest with you. Why would you listen, why would you just go to that extreme in, helping someone? You just don't. Him, Lucy, Brad had mentioned too much in what they're saying. Too much. Jay also asked for a cigarette, and Quasim gave him a Camel cigarette and left it on the side. Jay then asked for a charger and then went into Quasim's friend's room while he was sleeping and got the charger. Mr. Williams Thomas said that Quasim told him. He then went to sleep and woke up to the sound of the door buzzing. He added Quasim opened the door and spoke to a woman and a man. They told him to move his car, which he did, and he said he could see Jay chatting to the woman. Well, look, the thing is, right, so he goes out to move the car. So we presume that that woman is Ophelia and her husband or her son. He said that after moving the car, he came back and saw Jay had his trainers on. He told Wasim. So Jay must have ran in, because it's not going to take long to move a car and park it down the side of the Airbnb. Do you know what I mean? He came back and had his trainers on. He told Wasim that the woman had said he could get a bus every 10 minutes. So why wouldn't you stay? Wasim said to him, "Chill, mate, I'll drop you off later when I wake up." He said, Jay said, "No, I just need some scran. I'm hungry." Don't forget, apparently they stopped off, got themselves a drink, and then Jay had a kebab or apparently something to eat at Magic Mike's. So that doesn't make any sense, him being hungry again. And after all the rugs he was taking, it just doesn't make sense. It's just a lie after a lie after a lie. Jay said he had been told by the woman at the bus to Los Cristianos was every 10 minutes. And Quasim said there was no bus and added, "Do what you like before going to sleep." Yes, but he asked Ophelia, and Ophelia said every 10 minutes. So this is obviously not right, what Abe's saying. Obviously, Ophelia lives in the area, born and bred there, whereas Quasim is just a holiday maker, but we know that he's been to sort of narco headquarters. Mr. Williams Thomas Addis Quasim says the next day he remembers is getting a call from one of Jay's friends to say he's lying in a ditch somewhere and that he's been bitten by a cactus. Bitten by a cactus, eh? So he must have had some kind of cut on his leg or somewhere on his body. Odd, isn't it, that they actually put that in? Quasim would not tell Mr. Williams Thomas the identity of the second man who was with him and refused to discuss an alleged theft or relics, which might have contributed to Jay's disappearance. I mean, isn't it funny? A lot of the information is really out there in the early days, and a lot of the information now, you struggle to find it, as though everyone wants this case disappeared. So why wasn't it easy to say your friend was asleep in the car, he was knackered, he then went in and went straight to bed? But didn't he originally say, Ayub, that his friend slept in the car for a little while, then came in? It just doesn't make sense. There are so many contradictions in this case. It's laughable. It is absolutely laughable. So, like I said, I don't think it was Rocky that was the friend. I really don't think it was Rocky that was there at that time. I think Lucy was there. I think Brandon was there. And I think LK was there. I'm not too sure about the others. It wouldn't surprise me if Tom Hilton was there. That wouldn't surprise me at all, but there's no proof of that. Last week, the TV detective who had probed a string of missing persons cases also said Jay from Oswald Twistle, Lancashire, has been anxious and scared when he left the property. So it just seems like a situation of events to make Jay believe, like I said, he was responsible for his own death and what was actually happened for him due to the drugs he was taking, playing people up, going off on his own. Initially, it was thought Johnny Vegas was the nickname of the second man who was at the ABB, but this has been ruled out by Mr. Williams Thomas. New interview. Why was that changed? Why was that changed? Because we always thought it was Jonathan A. That was Johnny Vegas. And don't forget, like I said, he's another one that basically deleted his some of his online TikTok stuff and other things. Roundabout, after Jay went missing, and that was really, really strange. And I remember some of the messages on that. I remember someone saying, "But it wouldn't surprise me this person is highly involved in Jay's disappearance or something to do with it." However, Qasim's story is still far from clear, as Jay's apartment was just 10 minutes away from Papagayo's nightclub, where the after party was being held. On Saturday, Jay's uncle, Glenn Duncan, 41, searched the area for several hours, with Jay's dad, Warren, 58, and his brother, Zach, 24. I'm going to read that again, people. However, Qasim's story is still far from clear, as Jay's apartment was just 10 minutes from Papagayo's nightclub, where the after party was being held. After party at Jay's apartment, and yet he wanted to go somewhere else. He didn't want to go back to the after party where his best friend, Brad, and Lucy were, and other people. That just doesn't make, that is weird. That is really, really strange, people. Really strange. After more than 6 hours under blazing sun, he told waiting media there's millions of apartments and hotels down there in Los Cristianos and Americas. Do you know what? It's just, this case is just full of storytellers. Full of storytellers. It really is. So it does sometimes. I'm laughing in the way that basically how much these people have got away with so much. The fact is, Qasim has come out and said all his mates have left him and he had nowhere to go. He was 10 minutes from his apartment in Los Cristianos. Jay's not stupid. He didn't have a room key. He could have gone to reception for replacements. Spanish police told Mail Online that although the search was over, the investigation was continuing and there were many open avenues being looked into. How strange that was put together, because like I said, I'm sure if this case was in the UK, it would have been looked into every bit at the end of the day, and I think it would have been criminal straight away. But this weird stuff that Abe said, and don't forget, he flew out 24 hours later after he talked to the police. Then I think he had to go back a few months later make a statement, and I don't think he's been back since, and that's really, really strange as well. And I think a lot of the people who knew Tom Hilton, I think they flew out quickly knowing what happened to Jay, because like I said, a lot of his friends seem to know a hell of a lot about what may have happened to Jay before it even got into the newspaper, and that is